Hello from the FanGraphs draft board. The rest of the episode, the footage you will see is from the first time I saw McAble, my 9th ranked prospect, which was during a high school showcase tournament in the West Valley here in Phoenix a couple of years ago. Abel was, I think he had finished his freshman year of high school, was a rising sophomore, or maybe it was before his sophomore year in January, I think. One of those winter tournaments that often occur here in Arizona. He pitched against the Arkansas Sticks travel ball team, which I think is now the best, consistently the most talented travel ball team that I see out here in Arizona. It often has a lot of Arkansas commits on it, or kids from the Southeast in general. This particular day, Abel faced Jonathan Ornelas, PJ Hilson, Logan Ohop, Sean Gilby. These are guys who are already pro prospects who are on the board somewhere else. And he was an underclassman. Was about 90-94 that day as a high school freshman with that 6'6" frame. So it was eye-opening for me. He was immediately on the underclass board from there on, very, very high. And he's basically been in this area as a 50 future value or close to it for the entire duration of his amateur career since either Kylie or I saw him. So here he is. He's shaded down from a 50 to a 45 plus here just because of the way high school arms in the draft are valued generally. Is why I've slid him from that 50 down just a shade to that 45 plus, which is, the 50s that I've had in the past. Matthew Liberatore comes to mind. That's the type of thing. Maybe if Abel were a little bit younger, he'd be a 50, or if he didn't have a velo decrease over the course of last summer, or had the opportunity this spring to show yet another gear, but that didn't happen. So here he is in the 45 plus area. And then after game 6, I will take you to Max Meyer video from his first start of 2020 here in Arizona against the University of Oregon. Meyer was up to 101 or 102, depending on the gun that you look at. And his sliders were in the 90-92 range for the early part of his outing. The video you'll see is against a couple left-handed hitters. And you'll see because of the angle at which I shot that why. It's him working out of trouble. You see him against a couple hitters. It was so packed that day, and I was making my way from Salt River, where Vanderbilt and Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and Michigan were playing. And so I got to this game, I want to say after the first inning or halfway through the first inning, and I had a lamb shank from the Princess Market in tow. I got to go. Princess Market's an incredible Middle Eastern market and restaurant. It's on the way from Scottsdale down into Tempe. Made a little detour with a scout buddy, and Meyer was electric that night. You see him working out of trouble in this video, so you get to see that. Other draft board stuff that is interesting that is not in the reports that you can see on the board, which I'll continue to fill out. So I've moved Austin Martin down to 3 overall. The measurable power is very, very modest. He only swung and missed 4 times all of 2020. Over the course of about a month, he swung and missed 4 total times. So maybe I'm underrating how exceptional the bat-to-ball skills are, and he should just still be in the 55s. But as such, I have him. I just, the defensive evaluations, the more and more you talk to teams, they're just really not sure what's going to happen with him defensively. He just was not good at third base early this year, and no one really had an opportunity to see him in center field consistently and see what that looks like. So that combined with the lack of measurable power, it just has him shaded down here to what is essentially the top of the 50 future value tier. He and Asa Lacy are both right there on the cusp of the 50-55 future value tier, which is where J.J. Bleday was last year and continues to be. Then, Hancock, Veen, Gonzalez. Gonzalez, same thing, measurable power. Not really anything to write home about. Both he and Martin have kind of maxed out at around the 101, 102 mark off the bat, and that includes wood bat stuff on the Cape. So that's kind of interesting. Gonzalez obviously has some defensive issues too. But most of they absolutely belong in this general area for me. In the 50 future value tier, they're top 100 prospects for sure. But we're not talking about Adley Rutschman here. There are holes. And then talking through the rest of the first round picture, Reed Detmers is interesting. I was low on Detmers initially. I was skeptical. I just don't like guys who throw 90. And so I had him 45'd. But after talking with folks in front offices, kind of talking through what the pitches look like on paper, there's enough separation and movement and other traits that help the fastball out. There's enough lateral movement that it's not just such a flaccid 87 to 92. It does have some hair to it. And Detmer's command of it is so exceptional that I can't find anyone who doesn't think it'll mostly play. His margin for error throwing that hard is small. But the way he has executed consistently throughout his college career has people pretty confident that he will continue to do so. The curveball, I think visually the curveball is unbelievable. But it is so slow, and also in this situation is paired with a two-seam fastball shape that it might be easy for especially right-handed hitters to identify it out of his hand. And so whether or not that is a legitimate out pitch a la Barry Zito, or if it's something that is going to have limited utility against elite hitters, we just won't know until we find out. But the dude can spin it, and at the very least, that's a trait that you can work with and try to cultivate something useful out of that. Moving on, Ed Howard at 11. There are some teams who are just not comfortable taking Ed Howard because he had a shoulder injury and then since then has not played. And then I've spoken with other teams, including personnel with teams who pick in the top 10, who think based on the way he has developed physically over during the course of his offseason, that they're ecstatic about his potential to also hit for power. And the thing that we all loved about Howard during the course of his underclass days and on the showcase circuit is this is one of the most consistent and technically sound shortstop defenders in this draft class, regardless high school or college. And he performed against elite pitching last summer. Made a lot of quality contact against elite pitching. And in my opinion, we learned more about him last year than we ever would have against mediocre cold weather varsity pitching this spring. And so the fact that some teams are not comfortable taking him, I think, is wrong. Like, I just think it is short-sighted and unnecessarily fearful. The risk of any of these guys going bust is there just is some. And I think Howard is terrific. So he's in this tier. This is about what the top of the international market for shortstop looks like in the coming year. And in fact, I might like Howard more than those guys, Coleman, Erez. I just have more confidence. You could argue it's bias, but I just have more confidence in the bat playing because I've seen him hit against elite pitching of his from his peer group. And by definition, the July 2 class is just, they cannot. Moving on, most of these guys are pretty self-explanatory. Patrick Bailey's the best college catcher in this year's class. Those guys almost always go in the top 10 or 15. Austin Hendrick, I thought, was a candidate to go to school. He's going to be a draft-eligible sophomore because he's 19 already. He would collect most of his bonus in 2 years anyway. even if he signs this year. He had some swing and miss, messing with the swing stuff last summer that I thought impacted his performance, even though he did get better towards the end of the summer as he adjusted his swing. I did think he swung and missed an awful lot last summer in a way that would have scared me, especially in light of how old he is. And I think it, combined with his age, would be likely to hurt him with model-driven teams. But he is the most explosive rotational athlete in this draft, again, regardless of high school or college, and probably has the most long-term power projection of anybody in this class, too. And so if you think you can do something with that, then this guy's, I've heard he's in the mix in the middle of the top 10. At least in teams' mix. Then you've got Garrett Mitchell, who's sort of divisive, which is strange for someone who has performed at a big school for most of his college career. Go look at those freshman stats, though. Those aren't great. And then Robert Hassel. Robert Hassel's great, too. He's been in this tier for me, the 45 future value tier, from start to finish. Towards the middle of the spring, I guess you could call it, he was back here towards the rear of the 20s, basically back-to-back with Pete Crow Armstrong. And, so thought about that, talked about it with folks with teams, and do think that I would take him ahead of some of this other college pitching. I think he's got the best high school hit tool in the class. Certainly the most advanced. A little stiff in the lower half. Not sure how much power there's going to be at peak. But, overall, other than the stiffness, a terrific athlete. And one of these, psychotic workers. Rubs some folks the wrong way. Other people like it. I think it is the type of person who maxes out his skill set. And ultimately that reigns. I have him stuffed pretty good. Nick Bitsko, again, same principle as Ed Howard. We know what this kid can do. I think he's got a chance to be really quite special. Is he riskier than all of these? Maybe not all of them, but most of the college arms I've got, just behind him in the same tier? Yeah, probably. It kind of depends on how you look at the gaps that you have to fill in with your imagination, with educated guesswork as to how someone like this is going to develop. But this is prototypical frame, little less physical projection than is typical, especially for someone who's an even 18 years old. But mid-90s, quality strikes. The fastball has the other traits that you like. I think Kylie wrote something about the pitch data that, the kid's advisor gave Kylie. The breaking ball and the way the fastball plays and the way Bitsko throws strikes with the fastball that is the foundation that I want from my high school pitching prospect, and this guy's got all of that stuff. And just understanding that, using that heuristic is why we were able to be, I say this with humility, correct about Mick Abel when he was a rising sophomore or freshman, or however you do that. When he was deep in his underclass years. The frame, the breaking ball, the fastball, velocity, and the ability to throw quality strikes with said fastball. Those are the components. And you've got some of the guys who have either a shorter track record for whatever reason or some other shortcoming. So Cavalli hasn't been doing it for very long. Speaking of great frames, Cole Wilcox, draft eligible sophomore, depends on how you look at his fastball traits. He's one of the lower slot, sinker-oriented guys. Some teams are just a little less enthused about that. Clayton Beater, arguably the biggest riser all spring. This is the guy that the TrackMan teams are on. This is, if you like James Karinchak, if you like Nick Anderson, if you like Colin Poche, if you like Peter Fairbanks, this is the guy for you. This is the guy whose fastball and breaking ball play together in that exact way. He's deceptive. He's 94-97 with pure backspin just about. Monster carry on his fastball. And then the breaking ball movement mirrors it beautifully. It has power, vertical break, a little bit of glove side action on it. there's just a short track record of performance. It's someone who relieved for most of his college career, and you've gotten a couple starts in 2020 that you're betting that the strike throwing he showed during that stretch is something that he can sustain. And there's just not a ton to support that. I would not hesitate to draft Clayton Beeter, get him up to speed, and throw him in my big league bullpen right now. He could get outs at 94 to 98 with that breaking ball in a big league bullpen right now. Jared Kelly's got a shot to fall, I think. And the stuff here is the same that it has been since day one. It's a bigger-bodied kid. There's zero physical projection and no breaking ball. Well, that's not true. It's just an okay breaking ball. It's not an impact one. But he's like 3 to 6. He goes right at hitters, and it's a 6 changeup right now. So, again, with these college arms in front of Kelly, we're all looking at basically the same build. And most of these other guys have breaking balls. I just rather would have that than the changeup. But I do think that Kelly is a good pitching prospect. But those are the concerns, right? And they were the concerns about Chris Paddock coming out. Paddock was 19 on draft day. It was fastball, changeup, no breaking ball. His body was better than Kelly's. He fell deep, deep, deep. Kelly's been famous for a long time, so I don't think it'll happen like that. But we underrated Paddock as an industry for those reasons when he was drafted, and so caveat to those who might be doing so with Kelly. And then it's just a mix of the more stable college pitching. Bryce Jarvis, who had a stuff uptick this year, but it's 4 quality pitches and strikes plus changeup. I think for sure he pitches at the back of the rotation. JT Ginn is similar, but is obviously hurt. Garrett Crochet and Slade Ciccone are more of its stuff. It's a big frame. Crochet maybe has the best 2-pitch mix in the draft period. And just, injuries, and he's volatile. Who else can we talk about here? Pete Crow Armstrong, still kind of mixed on. Really don't love how his swing works. I'm kind of skeptical about him really doing any offensive damage. But he's so buff now. He looked really like a tweener to me last summer and did not perform. And if I'm comparing like him and Mickey Moniak, another SoCal high school center fielder with a pretty similar skill set, contact-oriented, defense-oriented, PCA did not perform during the summer the way that Abel did. But anyone who saw him with Team USA later in the summer says that was gone, that the guy who we had all seen be the best of his class, or one of the best of his class as an underclassman, was back. And then this spring, he showed up jacked. And suddenly there was a chance that he might have her power. He's probably the best defensive center fielder in the class, regardless of high school, college. But again, I'm just kind of skeptical of the swing. It does remind me of Blake Rutherford's swing, which I don't think works. So I'm a little tepid here. And then you get into, some of the other college pitching. Van Eck, Dylan Dingler, another pop-up guy, converted catcher. Bobby Miller, the delivery looks kind of weird, but it's mid to upper 90s. He holds it deep into games with an above-average slider. This is, if you look at Ryan Jensen, who went to the Cubs in the back of round 1 last year, from a delivery and arm strength perspective and a strike-throwing perspective and velocity retention, they are virtually identical. Jensen went in the back of the first round to the Cubs. Miller has the better breaking ball, and it's not close. It would be 40-plus Jensen last year, and Miller's a 45. And Miller's going to go about where Jensen went, and is, in my opinion, just clearly, almost inarguably, a superior prospect. And I like Ryan Jensen. Not a knock on him. But Bobby Miller's issues are a lot like Jensen's were, and the positives are a lot like Jensen's were, except Miller has a better breaking ball as well. And so they're going to go in about the same place, which I think really speaks to the depth of this draft. If you want something to point to as an example of this draft being better than last year's, it's Miller versus Jensen. How they're both going to go in the same spot. Then we've got some of the, the up-the-middle college performer types, Justin Foscue, Nick Lofton, Jordan Westberg. Any of these guys I think could sneak up, right? There's a little bit of this vacuum without college bats from Bailey down to Foscue. And I just can't see us getting from the very, very middle of round one all the way to the back of round one without a couple of these college bats finding their way up here. I just think teams are going to gravitate toward them. So Foscue, Lofton, and Dingler are the three of these who I would expect to go in this range. Maybe not all of them, but I think that they're the most likely candidates of this group to do that. You could argue Austin Wells is too. And then as we move back, Justin Lang, one of the better athletes in the class, has really remade his body over the last 9 months or so. He was 88 to 93, maybe 89, 93 at the area codes last year. I have him up to 93 in my head. I mean, it's in my notes, but I forget the exact range. But anyway, he's up to 102 now. Depending on who saw him when this spring, and I think it's fascinating. In one start, he was throwing really, really hard, and everybody heard about it. And then his next start, a bunch of heat was in to see him. You had to kind of decide between him and Jared Kelly on Tuesday nights in Texas. So a bunch of heat came in to see his next start, and he wasn't throwing as hard. He was in the like mid-90s, low to mid-90s. Basically parked at 94. And then in the start after that, he was once again throwing really, really hard. So it depends on when folks saw this guy. And I imagine because that you had to decide between Kelly and him that a lot of them didn't. He and Mason Wynn, the two-way player from Texas, who I've spoken to some teams who just think, yeah, you can actually try to develop this guy as a two-way player. I moved Wynn up in my last update, as you can see by the arrow. He's as toolsy and interesting as there is in this draft. Really, really fascinating player. Freddie Zamora, the shortstop from Miami, I think he will be the first guy who people publicly are like, hey, it's like pick 70 and this guy came off the board. He's 35th on your list. Were you too heavy on him? And there are people in the industry who think that, yeah, I am. And then there are other people who think he belongs here on talent and that he's going to fall superficially, or artificially rather, because of injury. So we've got him here on talent. I would just rather have this up the middle college bat than the corner guys, Sabato, Cabrera, Wells. Casey Martin, who knows what's going to happen there. Love myself some Casey Martin, perhaps the toolsiest college player in this draft, but just absolutely zero approach. Then you're going to get into this area here where it's a lot of college power relievers. Burl Caraway, Kyle Nicholas. That's my ice maker. And then some of the more like, this guy's probably the back of a rotation type. Tommy Mace, Carmen Majinski, who's a cutter guy. Chris McMahon, sinker guy. And then some of the high upside high schoolers as well. So there's Jordan Walker, who he was in at the beginning of this process, right? He was up here with like Hendrick, the big frame dude who might totally blow up between last summer and this spring, who might, all the power might come when the kid's in the gym and show up next spring and he'll blow up. And with Walker, physically he sort of went backwards. Like he looked heavy and sluggish. And so here he is. Dylan Cruz I've got here too. Let's see. Tanner Witt is also not on some teams' draft boards because they didn't see him, and his number is high. At pick 48 here, he might not even be signable. So I love Tanner Witt. I think this is a pretty strong place to stick him, but it sounds like he wouldn't even be signable for me, I don't think, back here. He might be signable up. Well, here's Dax Fulton, who I think is comparable, who might go early round 2. It sounds like for Witt to be signable, he has to sign for something like in this range. So we'll monitor that situation. Then you've got the other, again, like the back-end starters, Nick Sweeney. This is pronounced Sweeney. Whose secondary pitches sort of drive his profile. And then again, the high upside high scorers, Carson Tucker, the shortstop from here in Arizona, who I think is really talented and was a mess last summer. Swing was a mess. Throwing accuracy was a mess. It seemed like it was a mental thing, not a talent thing. If you're confident in your player dev group, then this guy goes on day one. Drew Bowser, he sounds unsignable. Stanford commit from Harvard Westlake. Sounds like he wants $5 million. I've heard between $3 and $5 million. So seems unsignable. Elijah Nunez is my guy. Ultra athletic, 5'9", center fielder, plus speed. Just built like a little tank. Can dunk a basketball at 5'9". Just a freak athlete who I think has been underscouted because Texas is so chock full of talent. And then Anthony Servideo, who is another guy that some teams are just not comfortable drafting because he seemed to be much better all of a sudden. And his history of performing is not as long as others. This is the type of guy who I think the Dodgers like to draft, who he's had a swing change. He's played a bunch of different positions leading up until now because he was just blocked at shortstop by Greg Kessinger last year. He's different to me now. I'm not scared of how short the look is. I do think that he belongs in this range. And then you get to some of the guys who I think I'm a little lower on. Close to the top of my 40s here. You've got Alika Williams, the Arizona State shortstop, who I know has been discussed in the second round. I have him toward the back of round 2 here rather than early on or in the middle. He can really play short. I just don't... His swing scares me. It's weird. That's basically the extent of it. Tanner Burns, the physical projection and the stuff to me is pretty average. So I've got a high probability 5th starter grade on Burns rather than, it sounds like he might go in the back of the first round. But this is where I've got him. And then Jared Schuster, the lefty from Wake Forest, who again, like the fastball I just don't think plays. I've got him more in this area with Logan Allen where it's more about pitchability and secondary stuff. Hence, Santos, Dabovich. Santos was another one of those guys who, it's a cold weather arm who you hoped was really going to explode this spring, and then he never really got a chance. And he threw at a tournament in Alabama and just was not throwing that hard. So he is in the place where like Andrew Dahlquist and Matthew Thompson were for me last year. In that, hey, this is still a good framed high school pitching prospect whose stuff is okay, but hasn't made a leap yet. Hence is in that range too. This is like the undersized guy who some folks are scared of because he's in that Tristan McKenzie sort of build area where he's just so skinny that some folks are just off of it. Dabovich, another power relief type guy. Seth Lonsway moved down. He was up in the lefty, like with Burl Caraway up here in the 40s on last update. The industry is just not confident in him throwing strikes, and that holds too for Nick Griffin, who's a high school pitcher who I really, really like, but yeah, just doesn't throw strikes. And Jared Jones, who, again, plus athlete, mid-90s, can spin it, but just has not thrown strikes for me ever. So that takes us through like the first half of the draft board. Over the next week, like, look, I reserve the right to change some of this stuff as my thinking evolves. And I just learn more. It's a one-man show, a lot to handle here, so some of the information and the changes to the board are just lagging. And the last thing before I take you back to some gameplay is let's look at this Texas recruiting class here. So by the way, if you use the board, you can use this filter function here to type stuff in. So if I type Texas in, it's going to give me all the records on the board where there's Texas somewhere in the row, and so I can look at this Texas recruiting class. Kelly, as I said, might fall. Do I think he falls to a place where he's unsignable? Probably not. But based on the chatter, the chances of it happening are probably greater now than it felt like a month ago. Tanner Witt, as I said, seems like a tough sign. If Carson Tucker doesn't go on day one, then maybe he ends up at Texas. Or if he doesn't get, I think, he might go under slot on day one, which is a weird situation. Petey Halpin is another one who, contact-oriented outfielder from California, who a lot of the industry really likes, including me. The number I've heard there is anything between 1.25 and 1.5, like where teams have him, to $3 million, which is what they think he wants. That's a pretty big gap. So a chance he goes to school. Because Jared Jones has struggled to throw strikes, he also might be someone who goes to school. I really like Dylan Campbell, who's a squat little hitterish infielder. Another dude who's just, a compact but strong little like bowling ball type. I wonder, based on the quality of the contact that he made last summer, which was quite good, and the fact that he's shy of 18, I wonder if a model-driven team pops him earlier than this, than I've got him at 130. Maybe this is low. But if not, again, like, he and Travis Steele both, non-zero chance that some of these guys just don't end up going, and that Texas has a haul. Just an absolute haul. And with Trey Faltini, the Sansone Faltine III at Texas already, like a shortstop for the next couple of years, for the draft 2 years from now. Like, it's a really talented group that might be in Texas a year from now, and this program has been struggling for a while. So that's the last thing I want to touch on. I'm going to take you back to the gameplay now. Thanks again for listening and engaging with this episode of Yeoman's Work.
Excellent.
Now, Monday morning, after game 4, I packed it in for the night. And then slept. I don't know how this happened. I can't remember the last time this happened. I slept till 11 a.m. I must have slept from like 1:30 to all the way through to 11. Which is bizarre. Just bizarre. I walked outside after I woke up to try to head into my backyard and take a dip. I was like completely butt ass naked, and my landlords were out there. Just had a towel wrapped around my waist, and that was it. I've got big, like, cinder block walls that surround my yard, which everyone in my neighborhood does. Right, for a living. So yeah, occasionally I'll go out with a towel wrapped around me because I'm gonna hop in the pool in the morning. I've got like my skivvies on. But yeah, my landlords have been here most of the last several days. Today's the first time that they did it unannounced. Because I think I mentioned this last night, they're going to spiff this place up and then sell it during the pandemic. So, but, so here we are. I've rerouted to the desktop to crank out my last 2 games. So I apologize if you hear any noises that sound like construction. You can hear a truck backing up across the street in the front yard, where there's a house being redone and flipped. They've got a lot of heavy stuff going on over there. And then a few houses down north on my street, there's a playground that's being redone too, and I think that they're going to start putting in the heavy-duty equipment for the playground, which I'm excited about, even though I guess I'm not going to live here when they cut the ribbon on that playground. We had to vote on the motif for the playground. They really should have just polled children, right? Like, I voted for the baseball motif, which won, but they really should have just polled little children. I'm not going to play on the equipment. I'm going to go, or I would have gone and sat under the trees Caught some Pokemon. Play some wiffle ball with some friends or something. That's what the playground is for me. I wonder what the kids would have picked. As I wake up, right, try to catch up with what's going on in the world, because it is so touch and go that, sleep for 9 hours, just a lot for me. And who knows what could have happened overnight. And I see there's somebody else was killed by police in Louisville. And that's one of the places where the footage of some of the stuff that the police have been doing has been especially infuriating. Like, just blood boiling. And so I worry that things there are going to continue to escalate. We've already had a curfew put in place here in this, just statewide in Arizona, by the governor. No consultation from the mayors of any of the large municipalities. It's just unilateral 8 p.m. curfew all week. And I know that there have been people. Oh, I watched there was a press conference in the state of Washington, Governor Inslee, the mayor of Seattle, various black community leaders where they're talking, and I know that some folks who want to protest are fine with the curfew. And there are folks on the law enforcement side who just think it's the best way to keep things calm, to put like an end time on the protest. But in Arizona right now, where it's as hot as it is, you don't want to do anything until after 7, 8 p.m. anyway. So kind of squeezed on both ends here. Uh-oh. All right, so Marquez is injured. Who do I want to bring in? I guess let's see how deep we get into our lineup this inning. That's bad, though. Basically gonna have to use 3 extra innings of relievers this series, which is like 10% of an individual's usage. I'm not going here, I don't think, right? Tucker Barnhart, average throwing. Dylan Bundy, fair hold rating. Maybe I do want to go. I really don't want to run myself into an out with Peralta up, though. He's been pretty hot. Oh. Okay, now the question becomes, see, I really wish I hadn't used Urquidy for 2 innings a couple days ago now. There's no way I could have known this would have happened, but it's really what I wish I could do now. Whoever throws here, I want to go 2 innings. And that might mean I have to sacrifice David Peralta for the rest of this one. Okay. It's going to be Urquidy. Yeah, I just have to do it, I think. Where's Mills' usage at? 38. Doesn't make sense to do it. with Lysiga. All right, Urquidy it is. Here we go. I'm going to do the double switch because I really don't want to deal with the pitcher spot next inning. This was where it would be sweet to just have Michael Lorenzen and just be like, all right, yeah, sure, go hit. Meg wants a third rounder for him, though. I'm not going to do that. In left field, I'm just going to use Brasso here. We're losing. He's good against both pitchers of both-handedness. So it's worth it to, even though his playing time is kind of scarce, I think it's worth it to do it now. No, he immediately commits an error. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. So yeah, this inning goes. Yeah, you may just be in and out of here until something interesting happens. All right, quick little cut to bottom of the sixth. Urquidy's gone his 2 clean innings. We've got 2 on here against Dylan Bundy. Tying around at the plate here, bottom 6. Nothing. Okay. Now I'm going to double switch here. Urquidy spot leads off the next inning. He's thrown his 2 innings. That's going to do it. We're going to go Jose Alvarado now. We're down by 3, so it's a pretty low leverage spot. I guess, who do I want to hit next inning? Probably Solak. Solak's going to go here. Second base spot. I'm going to kick Freddie Galvis over to shortstop. Maybe this is a little too aggressive, taking Adames out of the game, since he's one of my better hitters against right-handed pitching at least, but I'm just sort of living on the edge here because of Marquez's injury, and I'm down by 3, so I have to make all of the riskier, higher ceiling plays. And that's involving me making my defense worse. So now Alvarado's hurt too? Damn, man. Okay. Marisnik and Rio Ruiz. Just taking it on the chin here. What's Rogers' usage at? 41 now? Alright, Mills it is. Still have 2 innings to try to get through here, and then between games, excuse me, I'll be able to call reinforcements up because of the 2 injuries. We got a lefty on the mound now. Okay. Well, things are not going very well. So, if things get tight and interesting again, that's when you'll rejoin me. Okay, bottom 8. We gave up Another run, top 8. But then had a base hit by Brasso. I pinch hit for Jason Hayward with Tyler Austin. He had a 2-run shot. And so we're sort of within striking distance again with the heart of the order coming up here. So we'll see what happens. Lined into a dupe. All right. Well, we're pretty severely at risk of... what do I want to do here? The pitcher spot. Where can I move people around? I think I'm just going to leave the pitcher spot where it is and just hit for it next inning. I guess... Sure, Loisiga is just going to be my guy. All right, so we need to keep things at a 2-run deficit here. And then try to score 2 runs with like the middle and bottom of the lineup next inning. Probably going to be pretty tough, but we've done it before. Maybe it won't be difficult because all I'm doing is pressing buttons. Maybe the right way of putting it is I need to get lucky. Okay, so they're gonna leave Miguel Castro, I guess. Well, if that's the case, how bad is Casali overused? Screw it. Walk. Yeah. All right. Do your thing, Solak. No double plays. I might hit for Leon here coming up too with Margot. Oh, man. Good. Error on Colton Wong? Fine. Okay. So tying run. 2-0, baby. Come on. Everyone stay. Everyone stay. What are you doing, Casali? Stupid fake Kirk Casali. There's no reason for either of these guys to go. They're both in scoring position now, and I'm super psyched about it, but... All right, Leon. Sandy Leon versus righties. 196, 282, 289. Margot versus righties. Yeah, it's just better. So here he comes. Maybe should I have taken a pitch here? All right, Michael Brasso. Second and third, nobody out. If we... Oh, man. All right. Kind of a rough loss where we were teased at the very end. We're up 3-2 in the series going to Game 6. All right, Game 6, rematch of Game 1. Lineups are the same, except for the Solak Galvis sort of swapping I've been doing. Us versus the California Red-Legged Frogs. Red-Legged Frogs. Red-Legged Frogs and Big Yellow Joint. Syllabically. Conflating the two of them in my head. Let's see. Now that I'm, like, awake... Let me take a look at these KBO box scores from the night before. Let's see what there is to talk about here. Been watching a couple KBO games a week. I am more apt to want to stay up late on a Saturday night to watch them. The games will start 10 p.m. my time. on Saturdays. I just prefer to watch sports live. There's something weird about watching a broadcast on a delay that makes it so that when I'm watching a live broadcast later, it doesn't feel live to me. I'm just less apt to pay close attention, be present when I'm watching a VOD of a broadcast. And then I find that spills over into the live ones, and I just don't like it. Oh, that's right. No one played last night because it was Monday in Korea. Well, let's look at Saturdays then. Man, NC put up 18 on Saturday. Wow. I'll tell you what, Na Sung Bum, from a physicality standpoint, I get it. He's a monster, and he's got real juice. That's big league power, but I don't think the breaking ball recognition and the ball strike recognition, I don't think either of those pieces are there. So I'm pretty skeptical about him coming over here and succeeding. Yu-Ji Yang, the catcher and DH, he's really interesting. I wonder how he would do. It's more of a contact-oriented profile, but because he can catch, he's just a little bit older. He went 1 for 4 last night. Aaron Altair 3 for 5 with a bomb. For Samsung, Hak-Ju Lee playing shortstop. Tyler Saladino moving over to first base, which is kind of strange. Saladino 2 for 3 with a homer yesterday. You'd think that they would kick like Saladino over to third or something, maybe. I think they've kind of had to patchwork whoever plays first for Samsung. Kiwoom Heroes and KT Wiz. Let's see. Melvin Rojas 2 for 5 for KT. Kiwoom's got 2 of the guys who you want to watch long term. Kim Ha-sung, the shortstop, is on the board because he has. It's pretty widely known that he wants to be posted at the end of the year. So he's on the international section of the board, even though he's not like a July 2 prospect. He'll have to be posted. He's 24. I've seen a bunch of him, and he's a 6 runner with a 7 arm, but I don't know if he's going to hit. So I'm a little bit skeptical of him. And then they've got a center fielder in Kiwoom. He's number 51, but his name is escaping me. Is it Wongbin Kim? No. My ability to parse through the Korean names has been difficult. It's because they all have similar musicality because of the syllables. And so they're blending together for me. He's number 51, and he plays center field, and he's really interesting. He's really loose and athletic, and he's got a great frame on him, and he's got pretty good feel to hit. But yeah, I can't find him he might have had the day off on this box score. I don't think he's on here. Paxton really struggling through 74 pitches and only 47 strikes, which I guess that ratio is not that terrible, but to be at 74 pitches through 3 2/3. All right, we got a Marte dinger to open the scoring here. So there we go. 1-0 here in Game 6. We're trying to win the series 4-2. Do our best to keep pace with Serenity Valley in the division. Which I can't believe I'm saying. They made a bunch of moves this offseason that their team is great. Their team is really good. And I probably have to make a move or two here. I'm just not sure how to value my 2021 draft assets or my 2021 player assets, right? Okay, let's see. Ball's over his head. Adames doubles. I'm going to try to score with Chapman here. 2 outs. Ball to the wall. Yeah. Okay. Get going. Yeah, baby. All right, we're pouring it on here in the bottom 4th. I'll see you guys in the later innings. Okay, another quickly ran into trouble here, top 5. You can see where Paxton is at pitch count wise here. Ian Desmond is the tying run. He absolutely crushes lefties. I really had to lean on my bullpen last game because of Marquez's injury. I did bring up AJ Puck, really as a lefty specialist, and Matt Barnes, who part of me wants to go to in this situation. And part of me thinks he's apt to implode. Like, I don't know. Man, Paxton made the last out last inning too, so this feels pretty bad. We go righty, righty, righty. I'm just gonna go with I'm moving Barnes onto the mound here. Oh, it's 2-0. Okay. Well, we're just rolling with Barnes here. All right, kind of dicey, but we got out of it. It's a closer game now than it was before, but at least it's not tied. So there you go. Weird situation in the middle of this one. Made the proactive decision to go to Barnes, and he gave up a double and then a second piece of hard contact that we were lucky Marte was able to make a play on from the way the text read out. Okay. Picked up recording here, bottom 6. Matt Barnes went to the top of the 6th for me. Walked a guy. Almost walked another one. We got what the text read out as a gift strike 3 call. Because we're going... I'm going to go left on left here. I'm scared of Garver and Desmond in the event that one of these guys gets on base, but I do want to do left on left here. So I'm going to use Puck. If I'm going to go left on left for 2 hitters, I suppose if he gets both of them out, then I would just leave Puck in. And if someone reaches and Garver and Desmond are the tying run, then I'd probably go to a righty. So I'm not going to double switch now. In the event that I do have to go to a righty, then I will double switch. So for now, Puck, who I would pinch hit for next inning if he goes 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go with him to start, and then we'll see what happens with Wong and Freeman. I really don't want Garver or Desmond taking an at-bat as the tying run. Okay. And that's why. All right, so now we're going to hit for Puck this inning. We've got Rondon on the mound. He's thrown 20 pitches already. Do I want to bunt with Sandy Leone here? He hasn't done anything. See, his average is still 0. He's over 13 with 3 walks. Yeah, I'm going to bunt. Okay, now we're going to hit for puck. I'm just going to put Solak in here in case they remove Rondon. Someone who can hit either-handed pitching pretty well. Walks. Now we're going to get a lefty to face Hayward? Yeah. Okay, now the question is, do I do anything about this? I don't think so. I could stick Margot here. I could put Tyler Austin here. My defense gets worse. I have a 2-run lead. There's also just 1 out, and unless I roll into 2 here, then Marte is also just going to hit this inning. Maybe if there were 2 outs, I'd be more apt to try to do something here with Tyler Austin or Manny Margot. Punished. All right, so the decision making there, I think I'm not sure if that was right to let Hayward hit there. I have to hope that he makes some sort of game-altering defensive play now, I think. I'm going to bring in Holder to pitch. He's just going into the 9-hole for Solak. But yeah, maybe I should have brought in a lefty masher in that situation with 2 guys on. We're going to go Holder into... Let's just see. I want to know who we're going to do. We got Louis Urias. Then Winker. Then Swanson. And then 2 lefties. All right, do I run? Do I want to run for Devers here, or do I just run with him? Stealing fair? Probably not. I'm gonna do some stuff here. I'm gonna put Margot in as a pinch runner, and I am gonna try to take a base here. Okay. This will make my defense better. I'll find a way to get Margot into center field. Give me an insurance run. Give me an insurance run, please. Get through. Okay. All right, let's move our defensive pieces around. Margot, we know, is going to be in center field. Now we just have to find someone to shoehorn at second base and first base. So I'm going to stick Brasso in the pitcher spot. He's going to play first base. The pitcher spot is going to go here where Freddie Galvis was. And then I'm going to kick Ketel Marte down to second base. We've got Urias, Winker, Swanson. So let's start with a righty. I think I'm just going to go with Taylor Rogers here. He's just the best arm I've got in the bullpen. If I had to go with one guy in this situation, it's him. So I think that's what I'd like to do, is have it just be one pitcher who gets me through this inning. Here's our defensive alignment now. It's as good as it's going to get. The outfield defense is exceptional because of the Margot move. Fine. I'm going to try to pick off Urias here. Pretty rare move to do. Okay, doesn't sound like he's going based on the text. Doesn't have like a... Come on, Willie. All right, well, we got one there. That was big. So that Rogers can go left on left here against Wong, and then really importantly against Freeman. All right, we got there. All right, 4-2. We take this series. Thank you guys for joining me on episode 2 of Yeoman's Work. Let's see what we've got coming up here. Obviously, the draft is in a week and a half, so be on the lookout for draft-related content at the site. We are on the road next week against the GTA Commuters, who are at the bottom of the NL East. Maybe we'll do some sort of lineup creation and manager profile sending episode of this next week, which will be a lot shorter, and I can walk you through some other stuff, go through the draft board. Maybe we'll figure something else out to do. Because the infrequency of my home series, it's pretty variable, right? I could go a couple weeks in a row where I'm just on the road, as you guys know. But I want to thank you for joining us. Everyone stay safe out there. Do your best to keep it together. And it's a weird time. We need to change some stuff. And if you're not registered to vote, I encourage you to do that. Go do it. It's easy. It's really easy. So start trying to do that in your state. And thank you again for joining me. Hope everyone stays well. I'll see you again soon.
That's it.
Flip-flops.
Oh, Max. Here we go, Max.
Come on, Max. Right here.
It was like you really.
All of it.
Virginia for Oregon, for 13, Aaron Zavala.
Jenna kept telling me this guy has any idea behind this.
Now batting for the Ducks, right fielder A.J. Miller.
Saw your text.
Come on over for a half inning. Come on, Max.
That's it.
Hopefully,
This is such a strong man.
Come on, Chief, wake up. Holy moly. Last time.
let's go.
Come on, Max.
Come on, Max.
There are tunnels.